So, Zelda, it's getting a fucking open world game, or at least that's what they're claiming. And the reason why I have B-Mask here is because I'm going to finally trap him into a fucking corner and say, whatever happened to that Zelda documentary, you fucking asshole?
Oh god, I was never a member of the Zelda party. I know nothing about Zeldas. That thing died because, I mean, first of all, there was the Dark Master incident, which, by the way, as it turns out, may potentially have been a troll, according to someone who knew him. But apparently it was something he did a lot, so, you know, jury's still out on that one.
So fuck him.
But, like, with the documentary, the biggest reason I stopped doing it is actually completely relevant to this discussion. My documentary was completely on the back of the hype of Skyward Sword and all of these promises they made.
It all makes sense now.
Yeah, and then Skyward Sword came out, and it was a piece of shit, and I couldn't... I couldn't, in good faith, continue a documentary talking about how great Zelda was with this turd that it was celebrating before it even come out. And you know what? I made the exact same problem with Epic Mickey. Exact same fucking problem. So, you know, I learnt a lot during those years. That was my growing up period. The bit where I stopped being what could have potentially been a huge neckbeard. It could have happened. It totally could have happened. But
now you're only D'Artagnan compared to that Pendulette bit.
God, you are not the first person to call me that. That is, maybe I really do look like D'Artagnan. That's not a bad thing.
No, that's because that's what you told us that your roommates all called.
Oh right, I never fucking mind.
D'Artagnan.
Mine like a sieve, you know.
But yeah, I was trying to get you here just so I could do like one of those Salon-styled trap interviews, you know. It's like, hey, yeah, let's talk about Nintendo. Whatever happened to that fucking Epic Mickey, son of a bitch? Skyward Sword?
But how can I possibly do like something on the celebration of Zelda and how far it
Where's the lowest fucking point in like 25 years?
But it was the game that I was talking about was the game that took it all the way back to the beginning and then some. You know, it was like the beginning of like Skyward Sword is the equivalent of two Neanderthals bashing rocks together. You know, with their foreheads.
From what I've heard, it's just so patronizing.
It really is. Yeah,
it's like from what I've heard, and I have no experience in Skyward Sword, so feel free to correct me, internets.
Or me.
It's or you, yes. It's the way it sounds. It sounds like it's like Navi from Ocarina of Time on steroids, like to the point where it's like, oh, go over here and do this. No, seriously, you can do it.
Yeah, it's funny because when I was younger, I never actually noticed that the King of Red Lions was actually kind of, when he's a boat, he's not really a character with a hell of a lot of personality, but that's actually a really clever design that they put into the game. He's there to give you help if you ask for it, and he's actually, if you go looking for it, he can come across as a, you know, kind of stoic, sympathetic character of sorts, because there's the whole bit when he's like, oh, I don't have a sail, that's kind of embarrassing. And that's literally kind of all the character you need to start the game with him off on. Mm-hmm. And what the clever thing Nintendo did is that he only gives you advice if you ask him for advice.
If you ask for it. Ask for it. Keyword.
Yeah. Obviously, there are a few occasions where he gives you advice before you can do anything, or he won't let you get into the boat near the beginning of the game when you get to Dragon Roost. But by and large, you know, if you need some help, you just go and chat to him when you want. He's not constantly tapping on your shoulder. You know? Yeah,
and that's the biggest problem. I was listening to an interview. It was the indie game movie after interview, whatever the hell it was. It had like, you know, Phil Fish and Jonathan Blow specifically, and they make the mention. A Japanese man asks the panel, you know, what do you guys think about Japanese video games, and of course Phil Fish makes a completely, I don't believe it's a racist comment. He says that Japanese video games just suck.
At the moment, yes. Yeah,
at the moment, yes.
Yeah, I mean, his friend kind of came in and corrected him because, as we know, Phil Fish is something of a douchebag.
Yeah, Jonathan Blow came in and kind of corrected him. And the reason why I'm saying I don't think it's racist is because, like, if B-Mask, if you said American games suck, I won't say racist, and you'd be like, you fucker, you're all races. What the fuck are you talking about?
Fucking American games, they really do suck.
That's the other side of the coin, is the East and Western games suck.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because of all this patronizing hand-holding. I mean, you play an FPS game, and that's not a Japanese game, I guarantee that. It's an American game.
Yeah.
You play an FPS game, and it's literally walk forward, and the guy who's with you on your first round out says, okay, stop, Jonesy, stop. All right, now, get down, seriously, here comes a missile, get down. And he's okay. Now we're going to the next fucking cutscene.
Yeah, I mean, this is a point Principal Egoraptor talked about years ago when he was doing Sequelitis, which you should really get back to, which was it was an episode I think on Mega Man where he talks about how that game is beautifully designed, Mega Man 10, because everything is kind of there for the player. You know, from the very outset, they predict how the player may respond, and they design the environment based around how that player will discover things. You know, so the player is able to learn the game without even a manual. And he was talking about how there seems to be a culture now of, yeah, I get it, that increases more and more over the years because we get more and more tutorials telling us how to do shit.
Exactly.
Because they're afraid that we won't know.
Yeah, and the last game I actually played that made a parody of that was Far Cry Blood Dragon.
Yeah.
Which it's based in the 80s, where, you know, in the 80s, speaking as an 80s baby, you're thrown into a fucking game, babe in the woods, and whatever happens, you learn as you go. I mean, there's a spirit of discovery that Zelda, for instance, had, where, you know, you get like some very, very vague suggestions about what to do next, but you had to figure it out.
Yeah, that's...
And Blood Dragon, it goes through this fucking tedious ass tutorial. It's very tongue in cheek. It's very intentionally boring as fuck, to be honest. It's like, okay, now take a step forward. Awesome. Now take a step back. You can take a step left with the left key. You can jump with the space key. And the guy's like, come on, I want to play the fucking game already.
I mean, it's kind of nice that there are a lot of people who are getting more self-aware about it. Although it would be nice to see them actually fix the problem.
Yes,
that's, you know, a whole other issue. But there's an interesting
there's a big difference between being self-aware with the problem and fixing it. I.e., the Nintendo E3 conference where the guy in the skit from Robot Chicken's like, when are we gonna get another Star Fox?
Yeah, it's funny because
it just goes right over their head.
I don't know if you've left this in the last podcast that we did, but, you know, as I said, you know, I was sitting there going, you know, jokingly, like, come on, there should be more Star Fox. And then the guy went, haha, there should be more Star Fox. And everyone kind of looked at me like, haha,
you're the neckbeard in the crowd.
Yeah, exactly. But then I've said afterwards, like, if we make satire about it, then maybe it won't be an actual problem. You know, the point being that doesn't mean the problem's gone away, you know. Yeah. Where is Star Fox? But of course we talk about this in our E3 discussion. But the funny thing about Zelda, I've been watching a lot of Matthew Matos's reviews on the subject, and interesting point he brought up was that actually the closest the series ever got beyond the first game of capturing that sense of exploration was the Wind Waker, because Ocarina of Time and Link to the Past are actually quite... They're still about exploration, but they're in a much more sort of a tighter environment,
right?
And it's more cinematically driven. It's more about this story and, you know, sort of doing things that video games hadn't necessarily done on that scale before with those kind of visuals. And then Majora's Mask took it even smaller, and actually that's one of the reasons I think Majora's Mask succeeds so well, is that it tries something completely different. It says, what if we took a tiny kitchen sink sized area and filled it up with all this stuff, so that, you know, everything works on a night and day system, which is still gorgeous, you know, to play. You know, this idea that wherever you are, something is happening at the same time somewhere else, and it makes the game feel alive and vibrant. But in terms of exploration, the Wind Waker is the only other game to stick you in a boat and at some point reasonably early on say, you can go where you want now. Why don't you go have a look around, see what's there? There's no real restrictions.
Go climb it.
Yeah, exactly. Which hadn't been done until the very first game. The other games had all been quite restricted. Obviously, you could explore, but not in quite the same way.
Right. There were certain areas you couldn't access because you need a certain piece of equipment or something, like a hook shot or
yeah, exactly. Because, like, when I was... I mean, there is a sense in the Wind Waker that, yes, you will need the extra items, but recently I was playing the Wind Waker, and it's kind of, at the very beginning of the game, it's very easy to avoid the big octos, which you can't really fight until you have, like, bombs. And I'm sure other people have done this, but I accidentally ran into the octo with the most eyes, I think, you know, with 8 eyes, and all I had was my boomerang, and in blind panic I managed to kill it just by being like, oh my god, you know, how do I fucking deal with this? I'm just whamming it with the boomerang and it finally dies. But it's that...
Hit it with a stick! Hit it with a stick!
It's that sense of unpredictability that I love about the Wind Waker, that you're not quite sure how your gameplay is going to change on a different playthrough. you know?
Yeah.
Because it's not designed in as a linear a manner as it could be. Obviously, it can still be quite linear, but, you know, compared to Skyward Sword, it's a breath of fucking fresh air.
And see, Wind Waker is one of those Zelda games I actually never got a chance to play, just because when the GameCube came out, there was kind of like, I guess, with the Nintendo Wii U, and I won't spend too much time on it right now, though, but there just wasn't enough games to warrant a console purchase, so I totally missed out on the Wind Waker.
See, the funny thing is, I would say the GameCube has the finest lineup Nintendo offered, because you had the SNES classics and the NES classics, you know, which changed, they, you know, invented, revolutionized gaming as a medium. Then you had the N64 games, which again revolutionized graphics and you know, how we play games, and you know, brought the franchises forward. And what I love about the GameCube era is that they said, why don't we try something different?
Yes.
We can do all of this great stuff. Why don't we try and take it that little bit further? Because now we're at the point...
Metroid's a key example.
Absolutely. Luigi's Mansion, which is a beautiful little game. I really love that Luigi's Mansion and Mario Sunshine complement each other so well. You put, you know, Luigi with the vacuum on his back in a sort of small, dark, explorable environment. You put Mario with the sunshine on it, with the flood on his back in a light environment. So you had this lovely dark light balance of aesthetics going on as much as gameplay, and
yin and yang.
Yeah, exactly. And what was really nice was they released Luigi's Mansion when the GameCube first came out, and then they released Mario Sunshine in the summer. And I can still remember the summer that I picked it up, and it felt like you were on holiday. It still does whenever you play it. And Nintendo's really missing that kind of ingenuity in its lineup. You want to be able to line the games up against each other and feel that all of them offer something different. But yeah. I feel like you could...
They can be a similar IP. They can
yes.
You know, be a familiar franchise. But if you're jumping the same fucking platforms with Mario or Donkey Kong or something, it doesn't offer anything interesting.
Exactly, and you can line up the Zelda games, because obviously that's what we're really talking about here. You can line up the Zelda games, you know, sort of together from the N64, you know, to the GameCube, I guess, and you can say, yeah, those are, you know, completely unique compared to a lot of the other stuff on the console. But then you look at Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword, and Twilight Princess was criticized for being a little too familiar to Ocarina of Time and actually going back on a lot of the innovations brought up in Wind Waker.
Right.
And Skyward Sword was also criticised for a lot of the same issues, but more, which we'll get into in a bit. And I think Nintendo is only just coming to terms with the fact that this complete turnaround, people are starting to notice it. You know, I don't feel we've moved on from the GameCube era, which really did feel like we were starting to step forward.
Right, and I have to admit that I'm probably part of the reason why Twilight Princess is what it was, is that people looked at Wind Waker and says, what the hell is this cartoony shit?
Yeah.
And I want another, and I stress the word another, Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, because, you know, I admit my fault in this, but if you want a successful game franchise, shouldn't each one be a little bit different? I mean,
yeah,
you just
absolutely.
got to say the exact same thing. I'm parroting what you're saying, but it holds true. But then, of course, Nintendo's listening to all of these people who honestly might not even know what the hell they want.
Yeah, exactly. And it's why I'm a little bit worried when they say, oh, but don't worry, with the new Zelda, it's going to be completely explorable and you're going to do all these things. I'm like, yeah, but you promised that when you gave us Skyward Sword for the first time. I mean, let's not forget the fact that Moldarach went from being a boss fought in the very first area in a demo, and they said, oh, there'll be bosses walking around in the environment, to a boss that suddenly turned up, you know, very anticlimactically halfway through Skyward Sword.
Scripted.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of felt that Skyward Sword was almost... a mistake or a demo. It didn't, or a tech demo. It doesn't quite feel like a fully fledged Zelda game. And it is that thing that we were talking about hand-holding in games. It's laziness, because it's an excuse to not design levels and environments that can direct the player, or also controls. And the controls were so risky in Skyward Sword that they felt the need to suddenly have Fi come out and tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
And what's really inexcusable is that Fee isn't the only person who's telling you what to do. If she was, maybe that could be passable. She tells you what to do. The Shikia stones tell you what to do. You can talk to people who give you advice, the fortune teller. When you open a chest, it tells you what the item is and how to use it, and then Fee appears and says the exact same shit. It's that lengthens the time of play, and at that point
says the exact same shit, just like the CCS podcast.
Yeah, that's another subject for another day, I guess. But yeah. It's this thing of lengthening playtime through text boxes. I don't know if I want to waste my time watching text boxes, you know?
I think it's less about lengthening the game through text boxes and more about the fact that they think that by explaining every fucking thing to a gamer that constitutes good gameplay.
Yes, exactly.
It's like, oh, well, you know, we can't make anything that's, you know, interesting and innovative. And if people get stuck at an area or stuck with something, then they're going to raise hell about it. So
yeah.
We're just going to tell you exactly what to do, how to get from point A to point B to point C, and then possibly back to point A.
Exactly. So my question to you is, how trusting are you of Nintendo's new claims to...
I never trust anybody. I don't care if it's Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo.
You're preaching to the choir here, brother.
I mean, I think we at CCS, the C obviously stands for cynics, I think.
Yeah.
But I'm hopeful, but I don't put any stock in what a company tells you during a big press fair.
Yeah, which is designed solely for investors as much as
investors and early reviewers and hyping stuff to consumers. Yeah, it's a big Vanity Fair.
Yeah,
they're gonna be saying whatever it takes to fucking sell what they are planning on making. It's just like when you said in the previous E3 video that someone asked Iwata directly, is there going to be a new Star Fox game?
No, it was Miyamoto.
Or sorry, Miyamoto. Sorry, yeah. Sorry,
he looks so
stick and finger.
He's like, what? You want that?
You want Star Fox? What?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying, in a way, I guess I'm also trying not to repeat myself from the E3 commentary.
Oh, it's fine. People probably didn't listen to it anyway. It's E3. Everybody's talking about E3, so...
Yeah, it's true. But you're absolutely right. It's like, I don't think that Nintendo have ever stopped working on this stuff. As Max brought up in the Nintendo podcast, the previous Nintendo podcast that I was in, you know, apparently they've been working on a lot of these games since the inception of the Wii, which makes you wonder if the gimmicks kind of completely threw them off. I can certainly see that being the case for Skyward Sword, you know, which became a slave to its gimmick.
Yeah, which is extremely sad. I mean, to sacrifice gameplay for pushing some wiggle control or a screen that you hold in your hand or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Not a good idea. I mean, there could be innovative ways to use it, but if it interferes with the gameplay, you think they'd like test these things with people, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Pull some people off the street, you know, from Japan, from America, from other places, and say, try this out and just give us your honest feedback.
Yeah, because it only works 98% of the time, and that is actually an inexcusable figure in the realm of video games. But it's little dumb shits, like, you know, when he stands up and he's holding the sword and you can see, wherever you hold your arm, he holds it, and it just looks weird because nobody walks like that, you know.
It's like playing Octodad.
It is a bit, actually. It's. I mean, we joke about it, but that's kind of what it feels like. It's not precise at all, and of course, it doesn't help that the plotline feels tacked on as well, which is what was really nice about what Nintendo used to do, is that they come up with I guess they came up with the gameplay first, or I don't know how they did it, but it always felt like the gameplay and the storyline kind of married each other. You know, they felt like part of the same decision. With Skyward Sword, it was just, oh, that's how Ganon happened. You know, oh, it was all destiny. They were destined to become, you know.
Did they ever fix the fucking the timeline, or is that all reincarnation stuff? You know, that's a topic for another
yeah, I know. I mean, the thing is, I have the timeline with me. I'm a sucker. I bought Hyrule Historia, and yeah, I'm P.T. Barnum's favorite guy, and like the timeline is fucking irrevocably broken. It doesn't make any sense. There was no point of coming up with the timeline. People have made their own theories anyway, and the way that they've done it just doesn't really make sense when you add it all up. So why bother? They'll make another game that will be slightly related, and it'll change the timeline all over again. You know, I mean, Anuma's not going to live forever, so someone else will change it inevitably. Yeah, I'm not too worried about the timeline. I was always more worried about the gameplay. And Skyward Sword, I think they know that they dropped the ball on that occasion. Because the funny thing is, the 3DS game they released, what was it called? Link Between Worlds.
HD. Right.
Well, yeah, there was that one. But Link Between Worlds, which I've been playing recently, fantastic. It does things people were hoping would happen, which is, well, what if we made it so that you could have all the weapons from the very beginning? And the way that they do that is that there is a character called Ravio who he takes over your house, which is quite funny, and turns it into a shop. And the idea is that if you buy the weapons from him, you rent them, so you get to keep them for the rest of the game. But if you die, all of the weapons that you've rented from him, and you can have as many weapons as you want rented out from him, all the ones you've rented are taken away, and you have to go and rent them again. So, you know, there's a cause and effect of the whole thing. You know, it means you have to keep spending rupees.
It's a lot like Dark Souls and that kind of thing, where if you die, there's a penalty, and you're going to be hampered in your next...
Exactly. So you have to decide whether or not you've already figured out where you want to go next, and it's just really clever, really cleverly put together. And I think it's a good sign that actually... Was that thunder I just heard, or lightning? Or
oh, yeah, that's me.
Oh, that's you banging again. Sorry.
That's thunder on my. That's thunder and lightning on my end.
Okay, that's just your chocolatey voice.
I'm here strapped to some electronic devices with a outlet in, and it's thundering outside. And not a lot of tall mountains or anything in the area. It's pretty flat except for a couple of antennas and that kind of shit.
Yeah. But just enough about Hyrule. It's a few mountains out there. Yeah, no, that game was an example that I think Nintendo know what they're talking about.
Right. And I mean, the last really great Zelda game I remember playing is actually, oddly enough, the Link's Awakening on the fucking Game Boy.
Yeah, that was a good game. That was a really good game.
Yep. It was. I mean, it had the same feel as Link to the Past on the SNES, which was fine.
Yeah.
And I'm not discounting Ocarina of Time either. I actually really love that game, but it did have a feeling that if you're not going from one point to another, you aren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it felt really, really boxed in. It wasn't the open world exploration that the other previous games used to have.
That's the funny thing, actually. They talk about how the Windfish from Link's Awakening, it's sort of a version of him, if you'd like to believe it that way, makes an appearance in Skyward Sword. And you'd think that would be really cool. It's like, oh, they're harkening back to older games, but it's another sort of piece of proof that it doesn't matter how much they harken back to visual stuff and ideas that the fans want. At the end of the day, it comes down to their own judgment and improvement on gameplay.
Yeah, the gameplay has always been the fucking factor.
Exactly. And I worry that Nintendo has gotten lazy in that regard. In terms we were talking about level design and hand holding the player, and this idea that we're going to introduce all these people.
Hey, listen!
Yeah, exactly. It's like the people who first got into Nintendo in the first place. That was redundant. Sorry. The people who got into Nintendo in the first place, they didn't get on board because you held their hand and told them what to do and how to do it and say, "Isn't Nintendo magical?" They said, "Here's the game. Play it." We played it. We loved it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just it. I mean, even the very first Zelda game, you barely got a story and those scrolling credit thing in the beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you just play the game, and every once in a while there's like a hint or something that says, go to where fairies don't live, and that was all you're fucking told. So,
exactly.
You had to test what you had in your inventory to see if anything worked, and it was. It's hard to explain. It just had this sense of adventure.
Yes.
It's almost like learning something. When you learn something, it may be hard in the beginning. It may be tough to master it though. But once you do, there's a sense of accomplishment.
Absolutely.
Same and feeling. All of that is fucking missing in recent games. To be honest, I mean,
I was just gonna say that that's the exact same feeling I get from Wind Waker. When I was a kid, I used to make a little map so that I could memorize where everything was and chart things out and.
Yep.
And they do that in the game as well. You can make a map. You can go to the Fishman and say, here, jot down where we are at the moment. That way you can keep track of where you are, and you have all these charts to look at. It's just really nice being able to make your way in this world. And in that sense, I think that the Wind Waker does work well on the Wii U. Whether or not I think the graphical adaptation is any good is a whole other kettle of fish.
It's personal growth.
Yes.
That's kind of what it is. I'm not saying that not all video games give you some type of, fantastic, life ability or anything, but it is the feeling of exploration, is the feeling of self gratification.
Yes.
The good kind with a controller instead of a joystick. Badoomts.
Well, you know, a stick or a finger, but that's...
Sticky palms. Rest in peace, 2011, 2013, because 2 weeks don't fucking matter. Anyways, where was I going? Shit, brain fart. More. I need more rum.
You were talking about, you know, the sense of succession you get from exploration in games. You know, especially in the Zelda series, the idea that you could go somewhere and.
Yeah. Give me a second. I'm trying to remember exactly where I was going with that. Damn it, I lost it.
Where is your coffee now?
I know. Where is my coffee now? I need my IV. I need a spike in the spoon. I'm gonna inject it like heroin. But yeah. See, that's the kind of feeling I just don't get in modern games. I mean, you know, you play like Killzone or some shit, and it's just like, you know, okay, I'll walk forward, shoot this shit.
Point,
and
shoot, point, shoot, point, shoot.
There's no life itself is about making right choices or facing consequences, and that's why I like games like Demon Souls and you know, that kind of thing where you're not necessarily punished to the point, and I just remember my point here. You're not punished to the point where it's just a shitty game. It's not the gameplay that's broken like a lot of NES games honestly were, but it's just a gameplay that's tough, tough but fair, and tough and rewarding.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny because I've recently this morning I've been doing a bit of it as well. I've been playing Metroid Prime because Gaming Brit sort of put me back onto it a while ago, and I've been trying to get through it in my spare time. And that game is fucking beautiful when it comes to exploration. You know, I mean, you get a map in the corner that you can check every now and then, but the whole thing is all left up to the player. You have to remember to scan shit so that you can learn about how to deal with it. You have to remember, you know, which path leads where and exactly what's going on in each area. You have to remember where to go back to, what item you need to go back to it. You have to remember all this stuff, and you really do feel like you are utterly alone as Samus.
Wow.
It's stuck on this planet. Anything can come at you, and it's so perfectly put together. So perfectly put together. And that is a sense that Other M did not have. You know, I mean, it's got exploration in it, but the exploration is nowhere near as haunting and nowhere near as strong.
Yeah,
you know,
and it does that have the same kind of sense like in the very first NES Zelda, where you're walking through a dungeon and all of a sudden you see a crack in the wall and you realize you have a bomb in your inventory, and it's like, hey, what happens if I put a bomb on the crack?
Well, what's really great about the first Metroid Prime game is that it has this setup where, you know, you have every ability that you will get later on. You're just walking around as Samus dealing with this problem on the ship, and then suddenly Ridley turns up. Everything goes to heck. You crash land on another planet, and all that stuff that you had is gone, and you have to search and get it back.
Wow, it sounds like a God of War game where you start off all superpowered, and then some shit happens and you lose everything. You have to build it all back up from scratch.
Yeah, but, you know, except with much less man titties and you know, fucking rock hard abs. It's great because so the game teaches you how to use all this stuff before you even get it. So you feel what it's like to have all this power, and then suddenly you feel empowered, and it gives you a reason to go, God damn, I wish I had all that stuff back. And as you're going through, you just naturally, through exploring, come across all this stuff. And the game is designed in a way that you're not kind of... Obviously, you're pushed down certain paths, but you could totally miss a path for a good 2 hours before you finally go, fine, I'm going to fucking look in that direction, after having gone all the way in another direction. And it's really perfectly translated to 3D. And the biggest thing that makes this work is that everything is seen through Samus's helmet. And I don't mean it's in a first-person view. I mean you've got the tint across the helmet, you feel claustrophobic inside of it, you know... You have a limited field of view. Exactly. It's even more limited than in your third person. Yes, it's not like in Wreck-It Ralph where the player is basically a widescreen camera that can see everything. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, look at all this lovely level design we put together. It's like, no, you're actually a person in a situation, and this is what it would look like from that perspective. And I also kind of like that there's a sense in Metroid that you have to, like with, as they say with Demon Souls, you have to get good. Yeah. You have to learn to be able to switch between just walking around and then suddenly pressing the trigger so that you can go into aiming mode to aim at, you know, monsters and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really really well put together. And Zelda, this is why I'd rather see a new Metroid game than I would a new Zelda game at the moment, because it's that thing of, we have Mario, but we also have Zelda. It's like, what about all these other franchises that have this really cool stuff?
Other M.
Oh,
as Max would say.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and
let's bring Team Ninja back.
You should just have Max like pop up in the corner and just be like,
what was it? Team Ninja or was it Ninja Theory? Ninja Theory, right?
Yeah, you just have to be like, but there are boobs in other M, and you know, I don't know why when I do impressions of Max, they sound horribly offensive. But, you know, he sounds like Bartok from Anastasia.
All right, Rasputin, we're going to go do this. No, I don't know. Give me my vodka. No, I was kidding.
Oh,
that's racist. Ooh.
and Max is just like, you cis scum. You know? But yeah,
I feel that a lot of modern day gamers don't have the patience to wander around for 2 hours trying to find something. I mean, personally speaking, I don't play MMOs, but if it's an open world, huge world, and there's not like a little marker that says where to go, I'd be fucked forever. Yeah. And I'm not saying that you should make things necessarily easy, like go here and stand on this and use this and you'll win the game. There's a knockoff of a Zelda called It'll Do that I played, and for the beginning, it's actually very much like that. Yeah. I mean, it's very hand-holdy, but it does get progressively better. Yeah. But it's hard to put into words exactly.
I think I know what you're saying, because it's something that a lot of people are trying to do, which is teach the player through the aesthetics of the game, so that it's not necessarily just, here's an arrow, that's where you go,
here's an arrow, this is how you use it. It's like, well, it's an arrow, how else am I going to use it? I'm not going to throw it at a guy.
Yeah, it's unbelievable anal pain.
It's finding this perfect zen area between good gameplay and challenge. It doesn't have to be broken gameplay where you can never figure out where the hell you're going. Again, going back to early NES games and even Atari and shit like that. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be hand-holding, completely patronizing. Sorry, I knew I was gonna make that fucking mistake one day.
I know.
I'm sitting there going like, I'm talking and I'm like, okay, is it patron? And all of a sudden I'm thinking George S. Patton. I'm like, patron. Fuck, I got it wrong again.
I believe that the word is patriarchy.
The safe word is. Now we're getting kinky.
I'm reminded, it's like the voice of that guy who was in that one JonTron video when he's just interviewing people in public, and this one guy stoned off his ass is like, Nintendo can be porn if it's on the woman's body. What the fuck?
Oh God. But yeah, there's a balance that you gotta strike, and as long as you don't like patronize us to the point where it's like, oh, here's how you do this. I can't stand that. There's no thrill. There's no discovery. There's no I don't want to use the word personal growth again though, but that's kind of what it is. There's a learning. There's some pride in learning.
That was the problem a lot of people had, I think, with Portal 2, is that the game starts out incredibly strong, as indeed the first game did, and you're guided in a way that makes sense, and the puzzles are sort of ramping up, and then suddenly the puzzles don't ramp up in quite the same way as the game goes on, because they're going for that cinematic feel, and it is that problem. I mean, I love the story of Portal 2.
Games want to be movies instead of games.
Exactly, and as a result, that affects the level design.
And that, as a result, is why likely people say that, and specifically Phil Fish and Jonathan, whatever his name is, specifically they say that Japanese games suck, but honestly, Western games suck too. But it's for the same fucking reasons.
I mean, that's the biggest problem.
Games exactly. Games want to be movies. They don't want to be games. They want you to experience a story, which I'm all for. Good stories and games. Don't make that the fucking central point.
Exactly, because when I was playing Wind Waker, I felt like I was exploring. I think Rufus put it best, actually. My housemate, he said it's like visiting an old friend. You come back to a place and it's like, oh, everyone's still here. Oh, this is nice, and you get you feel like you're on holiday. You've gone back to experience a world. When I played Skyward Sword, I felt like I was playing a video game. Press this button, do this, go along this path, go up here, take me roughly from behind. No, not like that.
Put the
like
block
this,
here.
Yeah,
use
exactly.
the bomb here.
Yeah.
Bombs can blow up walls. Imagine somebody should honestly do this. Make a little fan mod or something of the very first Zelda game that's totally patronizing.
Oh god!
I mean, to the point where every few seconds there's like snap like a little story text box or text box saying go up one screen, go left a screen, go up a screen, kill the moblins with your sword.
Wouldn't it be great if like if you start off and you know the fairy appears, Navi, and she's like listen, and she tells you something. Then Fee appears from your sword and tells you what to do. Then the boat from the Wind Waker turns up and tells you what to do. And then Tattle...
Zelda 25th Anniversary Collection.
And then Tattle turns up from Majora's Mask and tells you to go fuck yourself. And it's called The Aristocrats.
Beautiful.
I feel like that's where it's going, though, you know. And actually, it's good that he finally came forward and said, we got a lot of negative feedback about Fee. You know, so you know... Nintendo has actually acknowledged that. So for all of you fuckers out there who keep saying, I don't mind Fee, you're wrong. Yeah, Nintendo have actually taken this on board now, so...
You're wrong, I'm right, I'm plugging in my ears, I don't want to hear any of your shit, you can go fuck yourselves for all you care. This is Matt Lees, and this is Matt Lees signing out.
Yeah, we love people like that. Those are our favorite people to hang around.
Yeah, absolutely, people who don't ever want to listen to any dissension.
It was funny. I got a message. This is a slight tangent, but I got a message on Twitter the other day, as I usually say, out of the fucking blue, from some guy who came on and said, "Oh, so all you do is bash DC products and you know, and hate DC. What a strange thing to make a channel about." And I said, "Huh, that's funny. The last time I checked, that isn't what our channel's about. And I love me some Batman."
They watched one video and overgeneralized the entire fucking channel. Never mind all the thumbnails of Nintendo and Marvel and.
Yeah, exactly. And then he made a comment saying, well, it seems that all you do is bash Man of Steel and stuff like that. And I said, no. On the contrary, I like me some DC. I'm looking forward to for them to improve in the future and make something decent. But his last comment was, oh, so you don't think anything they've done is decent? Well, whatevs. And that was it. He hasn't contacted me since. And I was just like, it's nice to know that you're listening.
Oh Jesus!
Oh dear, I need to get outside more. But yeah, it was.
It's just fun.
People want to hear what they want to hear, you know, and I think it's good that Nintendo is at least saying,
yeah,
we fucked up. But I'd be sure it's nice if their fans would, you know.
Yeah, I mean it'd be great if Nintendo not only acknowledges their slights but actually like proves that they're improving. And I guess that's just where we're gonna have to wait and see with the next Zelda game. If it is open world, if they backpedal on a lot of their promises, and if they have to throw in a couple of gimmicks to sell a Wii U.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the Wii U, I think I got to play it recently, and I do think that there is a lot of potential for the controller. I think the waggle. I had hopes for the waggle, but it does really feel like that was basically a gimmick that backfired because the technology's not there yet. But with the Wii U controller, they just advertised it totally the wrong way. Yeah. Completely and utterly. And it isn't even the best innovation they could come up with. It's such a left field response. Maybe if that had come out before the Wii, but then I guess the technology wouldn't have been.
They jumped on the tablet craze.
Yeah, they really did. They really did.
Which is unfortunate because I mean the control, like you say, the controller has promise, but the games just aren't utilizing it, and it's the fact that the games themselves at this point in time are just kind of meh.
Yeah, it feels like such a weird choice to take, and it's a shame because when you get down to it, out of all the consoles that are out right now, it is the best. Yeah. But that's like, it's as I've said before, I think it's like picking the tallest of the seven dwarfs. You know, it's not much of a difference.
Right. So that's why you gotta go with Snow White and pick Steen.
Oh, I'd always go with Snow White.
Who? Get dopey on her ass, huh?
Oh, God.
Insert Wolf of Wall Street joke.
I don't want to know that guy's even sired any kind of children. That would be fucking weird. But did you actually ever have a Wii?
Me, no. My brother had one, my parents had one, and my cousins had one. I played it, but I never actually owned one.
Cheapest console, really. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked into it. I thought about getting a Wii Mini or whatever the hell it is, but it doesn't have fucking internet. So I'm like, fuck that.
There's a Wii Mini.
Yeah, they made a new version of the Wii, but they completely like stripped out the internet completely out of it.
Oh Christ, I didn't even know about that.
And I'm like, what? Why in the fuck would they do this? Take out the internet out of a fucking Wii? It's like I was thinking about buying one because it's like $100, right? But then it's like, well, it doesn't connect to the internet, and it's kind of like a paperweight now, so fuck it.
I mean, I didn't even know this existed until you mentioned it just now, and truth be told, I've never used, you know, the internet on any of my consoles. I can see why people would do it, though, because, you know, I've done that thing where I've been like, ha, internet on consoles when we have computers, ha. But then people say to me, no, you don't understand. For some of us, that's the only way we can access the internet. You know, we don't all have the laptops and stuff. For some of us, you know, the fact that people, they browse the internet on their television sets, and that's actually become something a lot of people do. So, you know, me mocking it, just should be fucking stoned. You know?
Well, no, it's fine because, I mean, the TVs have, like, YouTube and shit built into them now.
Yeah.
But, the biggest thing is if a console's not connected to the internet, then you don't get the patches, you don't get the DLC, you don't get even like the WiiWare store or the Wii store where you can go out and buy, like, you know, the old Nintendo games and shit like that. So
yeah,
it's really a gimp console. So if I can't download me some Ninja Gaiden, then fuck that noise.
I think that's interesting that we haven't quite struck that balance between focusing on software and hardware. You know, again, brings us back to that whole thing of that, you know, we have the consoles are getting interesting kinds of hardware, and I mean, some of them are still atrocious, you know, and Gaming Brit made a great video on that as well. They're
getting the exact same fucking hardware. That's one of the biggest problems.
Exactly.
Sony and Xbox both use AMD ATI hardware that, I mean, the specs are almost identical.
Yeah, this is why the PC is, as they say, the best of the bunch, because that's the one that you can constantly improve. Once you buy a console, poop, that's it. Until they make a new one, that's what you're left with.
Yeah.
You know, you can't upgrade it in the same way.
And the upgrades aren't even the biggest issue, is the fact that a PC, you have total control over it. I bought my PS3 and they just kept on gimping it and gimping it and gimping it through all these fucking firmware updates. Like, oh, you can do Linux. And I'm not one of those people who is like, you know, totally like, oh yeah, Yellow Dog Linux, fuck yeah. You know, but, you know, they give you something, they take it away, and they keep on stripping all this shit out, and it just...
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, what's happening is that all the games that they're releasing for them aren't actually really showcasing anything worthy of those specs, or worthy of, I mean, not that the specs are even that worthy, but like anything that does anything interesting with the system. Do you remember the 6-axis controller thing on the PS3?
6-axis? Oh, the Wayward controls for the PS3 controller?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did it for a while. Lair got hammered for being a shitty game, and I bought it, so I had to see how bad it was, and it is unresponsive. I mean, imagine trying to fly a cow. I shit you not. You pull.
No, I have to ask. Have you ever played Goat Simulator? This could theoretically be done.
I'm not that barnyard. Come on. But I mean, literally, you pull on the controller and the dragon doesn't do anything, and you got. I mean, it looks like you're trying to like fucking jerk off the goddamn mop handle or something like that.
I want to know how this sentence ends. Go on.
I say jerk off with a freaking mop handle is what it looks like, because you're doing these gigantic arches with your arms, like all the way from your knees all the way over your head, you know. And it's like, flip over, you goddamn dragon, and the thing just goes straight, and it's like, fuck you.
Octodad. But nobody suspects the thing. You can't see it, but I'm doing a jerk off motion as I say that. with the broom.
It's a good thing I can't see it. But what would Pin think? No, I'm just kidding. But you're right. I mean, they've tried doing some. They had a gimmick, admittedly, built into the controller where they wanted to ape the Wii motion controls, and it just never took off. They didn't do anything with it. A couple of games.
It's funny because a
couple of games tried it. You know, like MotorStorm tried it, so you can you know, control the vehicle by driving like a
Ratchet and Clank did it as well.
Yeah, and it just no one used it.
But what's really funny is that, you know, it's in there and it will be there forever until it decomposes. But you know, I was playing a game recently. I can't even remember what it is, and I suddenly found myself thinking, huh. Really weird that I'm not using the 6-axis controller in this. You know, it's strange that was what hit me. But it was, again, it all comes back to, you know, the main topic, which is that the development of the actual games isn't going hand in hand anymore with the
hardware.
With the hardware. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
It's like, and I understand why, because then you look at something like Skyward Sword, where you go, okay, you know, that went completely off the rails for exactly that reason.
Yep.
But you know, I kind of like that in Twilight Princess I can just give a little slash and the sword comes out and can slash things. Yes, it's not precise. Yes, it's not one-to-one control. It's still kind of satisfying though. I mean, it's shallow, but it's because when I got it, it was like, oh, this is kind of satisfying. I can just go like that and go like that, and look, it's doing the moves.
Yeah,
that's
it was
really
the same thing with Warhawk on the PS3. I mean, that was actually one of the few games where I actually used the 6-axis controller because he flew like Star Fox style. third person airplane using your controller, which was pretty neat. A bit unresponsive, a little bit laggy though. But
see, I tried that on the 3DS recently with Star Fox because they have 6-axis controls of sorts, their own version. I can't even remember what it's called. Someone will correct me in the comments. And I tried it, and that was fucking atrocious. I couldn't even.
You're on a bus and you're hitting people.
Well, it's like I'm playing the game and I'm moving the thing, but the problem is when I move the DS, the ratio, the way I'm looking at the screen changes. I'm having to move my head with the movement, and this is also, that's even worse if you consider that you have 3D on, which I didn't. But if I tried it with 3D on, and it's a fucking headache, because you're trying to keep the 3D working at the same time as you're tilting the thing. So I just reverted back to normal control.
You're tilting your head around with your eyes crossed.
Wouldn't that be great on the bus?
Bus driver pulls over and call an ambulance because it looks like you're having a seizure. Your eyes crossed, your head jerking up and down, arms flailing around.
People used to make that joke about how if you were playing WarioWare on the bus and you're yelling at titties or something into the mic controller, or you're blowing into it, people are looking at you like, oh, what the fuck is that guy doing?
He has Tourette syndrome.
Except one guy's looking over thinking, oh, I want to get that game.
The guy has his big beard around his neck.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that Dave Chappelle joke who just gets his cock out, just comes towards you really threatening, like, you want to tell me about that game, motherfucker?
Oh god.
Yeah. No, it's. I think Nintendo is in a situation now where it's having to realize that it needs to focus on the gameplay again.
Yeah.
It needs to go back to the software.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because as proved with the latest Zelda game, the more they focused on hardware, the worse it actually was.
Right. It'd be different if they went hand in hand with hardware though. But if you focus on the hardware and get away from the fucking gameplay, like you said, it just goes to hell.
And I mean, I've seen the hardest of Zelda hardcore fans be completely unable to play Skyward Sword.
Oh, wow.
Yet I've handed them Link Between Worlds, and they've been totally smitten. And they've said to me, "Yeah, I'm a complete sucker, but you know what? This game is good." And you're thrown straight into it. There's the tutorial in Link Between Worlds is tiny, and even so, it assumes that you pretty much know what to do.
Yep.
I hope Nintendo continue that.
Yeah, that's the best thing. Or sorry, I'm gonna say something different. That's the best thing.
Oh, go on.
That's the best thing. Yeah, sorry.
No, go.
Oh no, I was gonna say that, like I said in the previous Nintendo podcast that you unfortunately weren't in. Sorry about that. But
it's fine.
If they made the Link Between Worlds game on the Wii U, who would have a problem with that? I mean,
nobody.
The graphics don't need to be fucking super, you don't even really have to integrate the controller into it. Just make good fucking games. I mean, I don't understand how they can do so well on the 3DS and then fuck it up so much on the Wii U.
Again, I'd put it all down to the gimmick. It's just their eyes being bigger than their bellies. Look, this is the console that sold like millions and millions of units. A lot of them to old age pensioner homes. That's actually a true thing.
No,
I remember when the Wii came out.
I know.
Yeah.
Retirement homes had the Wii's up the ass.
Yeah, and they were in the news like the whole time. Nintendo was fucking dominating those years. But then, people got tired of it, and it just backfired on them. And I think it's very telling that they went back to the Skylanders idea, and they've started doing the toys now. Which, good luck to them. But at the same time, I think you'd have to be very, very, very close-minded. That's not the word I want to use. Just as a quick aside, I don't like using that because Penn was saying yesterday in the show, a lot of the people who use the word open-minded, that's another code for closed-minded Americans.
That's how they justify themselves, their own opinions.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll cut that. What I want to say is that's how you'd have to be really, really stubborn to ignore the idea that that they made a boo-boo. That's why they're going back to the Skylanders toys. It's so fucking obvious. They've seen a market, they've seen the potential, and they're a business. They need to make the money back. So
yeah. So here's a question I want to end on. So
yeah, sure.
If they release the new open world Zelda game on the Wii U, and they're not going to do this, whole new console thing, because I don't think they need to do it. I think the Wii U will work fine as long as they have the games for it. If they try to integrate an interesting functionality with the Wii U controller with an open world Zelda, how would you do it?
Well, I think it's kind of obvious that you put map functionalities on the tablet, and so you'd be able to sort of take it out as if it's like an actual chart in front of you, and you can plot where you are and where you want to go, and things that you have to go back to.
Inventory too, maybe.
Yeah, inventory, definitely, because it worked quite well for the Wind Waker HD. That's a really tough question, because I think you need to have a really strong understanding of how that potential can be harnessed in the tablet in general, which I'm not sure of yet. They talk about the toys. Maybe the toys could provide some kind of extra stuff that you could put in the game, extra modes of transport, extra... I don't know, maybe there's some kind of two-world functionality they're going to have going, where you have one world on the screen and one world on the big screen, which they do a lot in some of the past Zelda games, ever since Link to the Past. That's a really good question. I don't know. Is there the ability to hold the Wii tablet up to the screen as if it's like the lens of truth? Because that would be fucking cool.
Because, I was thinking if there was like a mirror functionality. I mean, like between worlds, right? If there's like a mirror that you hold up and you hold it up to the screen and you see like something else behind, like a passage or something like that, or maybe by holding up the screen, the tablet up to the television screen, it like gives you like a glimpse into the dark world or something.
Yeah, that would be some really cool gameplay. I mean, the idea that you put the screen up and Too Spooky For Me, giant Master Hand comes out. And it's, not Master Hand, sorry. Wall Master. It's just like behind you.
It's just like that fucking video game where you take pictures of ghosts, Fatal Frame.
Yes, yeah. That'd
be interesting.
Yeah, that would be a really good.
But I'm just wondering I'm just hoping it wouldn't be gimmicky though. That's the.
Well, I think it would be gimmicky, but I think that it would be more interesting than what Skyward Sword did, which is that you can one-on-one the sword now. We're going to base an entire game around that. You know?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, whereas there's so much more you could do with the two worlds thing, because again, it's that marriage of the environment and the gameplay. You know, which Wind Waker did so well, and a lot of the other Zelda games, especially Majora's Mask, did so well, and this game could potentially do well as well. That was a lot of wells, so...
Orson.
Yeah.
Alright.
Vintage. It's fermented in the bottle and like the best champagne.
Snow peas.
Does this do anything? Can you imagine Orson with the Wii U controller, and he's just looking at it and going, "Does this do anything?"
I want to hang his head in shame.
just him playing Skyward Sword. I wouldn't even treat my dog this way. They're such pests. I mean, how can you say in July? I wouldn't. The reading's all wrong, fellas. You're losing your heads. We know a farm in Hyrule where they make frozen peas. Oh, Orson, how I love you. But yeah.
And
that's a strange way to end this.
I know, just Orson Welles out of fucking left field.
Orson Welles, just with the Wii control.
War of the Wiis.
I want a Wii game where the Wii controller represents the bottle, and your aim is to get him more and more drunk, just constantly kicking it back. And like you'd have the phone functionality where you have like his agent calling you up and saying, "Orson, you got another commercial. You got to do this one. Please sit through it this time."
Nintendo creates a new attachment. It's just basically like a bottle with a Wii on the end.
You know, just find bottles of Rosebud, you know, just stacked
Hey,
up.
Listen, drink the bottle!
I really want this now. Is that bad?
Nintendo, listen to us. Make an Orson Welles Wii game. Ow. Hit my fucking elbow.